Hello, Newsweek fans. This is Gary Loss. I'm a journalist with Newsweek, and I want to give you an update because I've written about and actually spoken about inflation a little bit. And I am by no means an expert on inflation, but I do have some knowledge that I wanted to share. So, this is called What's Really Going On with Inflation. So, let's get started. So, the official overall inflation rate, as reported by the US Bureau of Labor Statistics, right now, when you average these things here of food and energy and all items less food and energy, it comes out to be 5.3%, which is significantly high. I mean, that's a high rate of inflation. And if it persists, it can cause a lot of problems for consumers, especially those at the lower ends of the economic ladder because things like food uh, make up a big portion. And so it just eats away at their budget. But it stresses us all out. Unless you're ultra wealthy, it stresses us all out. So I wanted to talk to you about this a little bit because that's what they say officially is going on with inflation. Now, meanwhile, in the real world, when you buy meat or poultry, or you buy milk, or you fill your car up with gas, or you try to pay your energy bills, right? Or if you're renting, you notice these things are all going up and not just a little bit, significantly. Now, to be fair, there are other reasons beyond inflation for these to go up. For example, there's problems with the supply chain, um, and it's causing inefficiencies in the system. That's one thing. The other thing is a resurging economy. So consumers are coming back online and they're spending. So all that cash going into the economy does cause prices to go up beyond the spending inflation, caused by Congress spending like there's no limit. Okay, so there are other factors. Still, there is a sense of inflation, and you can see it and feel it. So no matter what they say in Washington, you see things differently, right? Prices are definitely going up, and inflation is definitely playing a hand in this. And maybe 5.3% is really underestimating the totality of the impact. Maybe it's actually higher. So, one of the things I want to talk about is how the old consumer price index (CPI) was uh, created and mathematically used to figure out inflation. Well, at one time it was pretty simple. It was just a huge basket of everything available for sale, and it wasn't a real complex formula. Now they have all kinds of algorithms and formulas to do this. You can see some of these on the right hand side. I would not even deign to try to understand these, but the point is that they're using much more complex methods. Now, in their defense, they're saying that this renders a more accurate and valid picture of the economy because the economy is not so simple and straightforward. But the point is that they're using different formulas now than they used to. So I don't know how we even compare inflation from now to inflation back then. And I'm not saying anything nefarious is up. I'm just pointing out this um, difference in the approach of how they calculate CPI. All right. Now, here's the reality as far as I can see it. And this is an overarching thing that I think we should all think about. Financial markets and economies have historically exhibited sudden and largely unforeseen collapses at a systemic scale. Such phase transitions may, in some cases, have been triggered by unpredictable stochastic events. This is from Jory Schafferdt in the Perspectives of Pluralist Economics. Now, the upshot of this is that the economy is unpredictable. And so predicting things like inflation is not always so simple. And case in point would be the housing bubble crash back in 2007 and 8, right? Most of us didn't expect that. Some people had probably been warning about it. There were economists, but in general, no one really saw it coming. So all the grand algorithms and formulas they used, well, guess what? It didn't catch that, and maybe it's no different with inflation. Maybe it is different, but maybe it's not. Maybe the ability to predict these things is not quite so reliable and accurate as they would have you believe. Again, I'm talking tentatively here, but I do have some feelings that things are going on that we don't know about, right? I'm not sure we're being told everything that we need to know. Now, the official line that you hear from, the kind of the standard bearers, like Mark Zandi, the chief economist of Moody's Analytics, says, but hyperventilated rants about how uncomfortably high inflation is here to stay are misplaced. As the pandemic recedes, so too will inflation. Well, first of all, the pandemic has not receded completely. And every time we think it does, a new wave of infections breaks out. And like we've seen recently with Delta, and who knows what other variants are down the road. So, again, his prediction about COVID being over is not necessarily true. And yes, probably one day it will be. But my point is that there's unpredictability baked into the system, so to speak. And then I don't really like this idea that these rants, that they're rants, much less hyperventilated rants. I mean, come on, they're not hyperventilated. People are trying to put food on the table, pay for their mortgage or their rent, and send their kids to college. And it's becoming increasingly harder to do. So I don't think these are rants. I think it's a bit of an elitist statement, in my opinion. Here's the alternate reality. And this is by billionaire hedge fund manager Paul Tudor. And I like what he had to say. He counters the prevailing orthodoxy, which is this. I like this quote. If they treat these numbers with nonchalance, then I think it's just green light to bet heavy on every inflation trade. And what is he saying? He's saying inflation is coming. Despite what they're saying, the opposite is coming, right? They're not dealing with the reality the way that he sees it either. And he's not just, an average Joe. This guy's a billionaire hedge fund manager. He knows a thing or two about economics. And I'm not saying he's an economist because he's not, but he does know some things about money, obviously. And he's also siding kind of with the average Joe here who says, hey, listen, I don't know about you, but things are pretty costly and the government's spending a whole bunch of money. And I just don't know what the future holds with regard to that. Like, it just seems out of control, and rightfully so. It does seem out of control, and things do seem to be hidden. Now, take a look at this. This is a comparison between the red line, which is what the government says is the official inflation rate, and the blue line, which is from Shadow Statistics. Now, check this out. They say, the government says, Federal Bureau of Labor Statistics, it's 5.3%. Okay. Shadow Statistics says it's right around 14%. Okay, that's a big, it's almost a triple difference, right? So, yes, maybe that 14% estimate is way off. Shadow Statistics has been criticized as being inflated themselves. Okay, valid point. However, maybe they're not so far. And maybe, just maybe, the reality is that the price or the rate of inflation is somewhere in between 14 and 5.3%. And if that were true, that would still be a problem. And I'm going to come back to that in a minute. Now, I want to show you something else here. Look at this screen. Shadow Statistics does something pretty cool. They allow you to put a dollar amount in this case, $100, and then a range in time. In this case, I did 2001 to 2021, about 20 years here. And you click find out, and it spits out equivalencies. So in this case, the $100 back in July 2001, now estimated by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, would be $149.23. And what I mean by that is not that those $100 would be worth $149. What I mean is that you would need $49.23 more to make up for inflation. So that $100 is not worth $100 anymore. You would need to spend $149.23 instead of just $100 to buy whatever you bought back in July of 2021. Shadow Statistics, look at their figure here. Now, they don't put the official statistics here, but I can kind of gauge here. There's the 100, there's the 149. And now look, if we just say that we're going to triple that, and maybe it's closer to quadruple, but it's somewhere between triple and quadruple. Look at how much that's going to be. We're going to take that $149.23 figure from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and we're going to multiply it times 3 or 4, right? And if we do that, we get this figure, $500. $500. That's how much more you would need to spend now So back in July of 2001, uh, you could buy whatever you bought for $100. Well, whatever you bought for $100 back then is now going to cost you $500 or approximately $500, somewhere roughly around it. Now, not all of that can be accounted for by inflation. As I said before, there's other factors. Nonetheless, you're paying for it, right? And inflation is part of the dynamic here, regardless of what they say. All right. So that's a concerning picture, right? That's not something we can just say, oh, well, don't worry about it. It's hyperinflated rants. Okay. Well, I don't think so because $500 is a lot different than $100. I don't really want to pay 5 times the price for everything, but that's how inflation works. It just erodes your spending capacity. Now, let's come back to this because I mentioned I would do that earlier. Check out the screen. Red line, the BLS, Bureau of Labor Statistics, 5.3%. Shadow statistics line up here at 14%. If we take the average of these two, approximate average, somewhere around give or take 9.5%. Okay, do you want to have inflation at 9.5%? And maybe it's only 8.5 or 7, but still, it's probably higher than 5.3 and it's probably lower than 14. But I'm not really comfortable with that. And I don't really know how long it's going to be around. COVID is unpredictable. It's been proven that economics are unpredictable. So all of their, reassurances is not really helping me feel any better. And I'm not saying there's some vast conspiracy going on there. I am saying this though. At Newsweek, we are rolling with the times and straining for the truth because as our owner, Mark Nejma, says, nothing is as it seems. And it's true with economics and it's true with inflation. Thank you, Newsweek fans. I'm Gary Loss. Peace out.